an insult, a subtle way of saying, don't try to do too much. But that's not where the original saying really ends. It continues. Jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than master of one. See how the meaning fits entirely? It doesn't mock versatility, it celebrates it. It honors the wanderer, the connector, the one who refuses to fit neatly into a single box. That space between mastery and mediocrity, that space where curiosity thrives, ideas cross-pollinate, and innovation is born, is what I call the third space. The third space, as cultural theorist Homi Bhabha had described it, is not just a physical place, but a transition space. A space where dominant norms, ideologies, and power relations are disrupted, and something new begins to take form. The grey area between what was and what is becoming. We often think of belonging as a finite goal, fitting into a group, place, culture. But the third space shows us something radical, that not-belonging can be just as powerful. Because when you're not bound by rules of one side or the other, you gain the freedom to reimagine yourself, to create and to resist. Albert Camus once observed that every ideology is contrary to human psychology. Because human minds, we thrive on nuance, contradiction, and fluidity. Yet, ideologies impose rigid frameworks that demand uniformity. I mean, think about it. Belonging is a continuous performance. We learn to speak its language, mimic its manners, dress in its style, and even adopt its worldview. This performance is not trivial. It requires immense amount of psychological energy and shapes how we perceive ourselves and the people around us. The reward? Safety. A cocoon of acceptance that shields us from rejection and marginalization. Within this bubble, identity is reinforced by similarity and the threat of difference is minimized. However, this safety is also a cage. It limits exploration and self-expression. In other words, the cost of conformity is invisibly tallied against the richness of personal freedom. But when one exists outside of this bubble, that is, when one does not belong, there emerges a rare and profound sense of freedom. Without the invisible hand of group expectations, you gain the autonomy to decide how you appear, speak, think, and love. This is ideological independence in its purest form. A liberation that allows the mind to roam free, unshackled by dogmas of collective pressure. Without the constraints of forced belonging, you gain the freedom to intentionally seek and build communities that are aligned with your authentic values. This paradox, freedom to choose belonging rather than belonging by default, is the essence of ultimate freedom. It requires an unwavering commitment to living authentically. Even when it means standing apart, navigating uncertainty, and enduring the occasional sting of isolation. Albert Camus again recorded the invisible labor behind fitting in when he wrote, "Nobody realizes that some people expend tremendous energy merely to be normal. The invisible work of suppressing individuality to blend seamlessly into the societal norms drains creativity, mutes passion, and breeds stagnation." History offers a striking example of this independence. Albert Einstein, ridiculed in school for his unusual thoughts, refused to conform and went on to rewrite the law of physics. Don't get me wrong, the world doesn't need another Einstein. It needs you. Your way of thinking is like an unrepeatable constellation. Without it, the sky is empty. We are often asked, who do you want to be? But the question we should be asking ourselves, who are you in the becoming? The in-between phase of who you were, not yet who you will be, is where the real story unfolds. As a child, my first third space was silence. I was shy. Due to my reticent nature, I didn't talk much, therefore I didn't have many friends. But my parents trusted me to figure things out on my own, and so I did. I built my confidence first, slowly, step by step, brick by brick, without a guidebook. That space between isolation and independence taught me self-reliance and the value of listening before speaking. As I grew older, my next third space was sports. On the surface, it was about competition, sure, but it was about living in between victory and defeat. Because in sports, failure isn't just possible, it's inevitable. I trained for weeks, I gave my best, and I still lost. At first, every loss felt like a verdict. But over time, I realized that failure was not the opposite of success, but the foundation for it. That space between winning and losing taught me resilience, humility, and patience. Now, I enter my third space, fighting, figuring out who I am and how I want to be known. Not fully a child, not yet an adult, straddling the line between comfort zones and new responsibilities. It's messy, it's uncertain, and it's full of mistakes. But it's also where I find my passion, my voice, and my values. The third space exists at every stage of life. And in every third space, there exists a tension. A delicate balance between opposing forces. And growth happens not when one side wins over the other, but when you learn to hold both together, embracing the discomfort of the in-between. I used to think these in-between spaces were just my own story. But science tells us otherwise. One of the longest running studies in history, Harvard study of adult development, found that our biggest leaps in personal growth don't happen when life is calm and perfect. They happen in transition, that messy middle ground where nothing feels certain. Sports science shows something similar. Athletes who treat failure as a lesson rather than a verdict don't just feel better, they improve their performance by as much as 23%. So, maybe this isn't just my story. Maybe we are all living proof that the grey area isn't a place to fear. It's where the magic happens. Just like how the shy kid in me learned to speak, the athlete in me learned to lose and to keep going, the me now discovered that uncertainty isn't failure, it's possibility. Every third space that I've been in has shaped me into someone stronger, more resilient, and more human. Today, I stand before you as the sports captain of my school, a mediocre artist, a not bad singer, but an even better athlete, but above all, a curious mind. And I thrive not because I belong, but because I simply don't. The path of not belonging is neither easy nor certain. It can be lonely, filled with moments of solitude and doubt, but the rewards are priceless. The liberation to be genuinely yourself, free from ideological chains and unspoken group rules. The ability to question anything and anyone without fear of reprisal is a rare kind of freedom. A freedom that breeds creativity, compassion, and self-realization. Ultimately, not belonging is not a curse, but a profound opportunity. It invites us to live deliberately, to love universally, and to shape a self not by the hurt, but by our deepest convictions. Belonging may give us safety, but not belonging gives us freedom. And freedom is where we can finally be ourselves. So let's look forward to more